What is going on with GoldBoys Live? As always on Thursday, it's just me and Josh. We appreciate our sponsors, Pick Sport and Sleeper Picks. Josh, how are you, man?
Pretty good, man. My head's still spinning from a super big slate in the NBA on Wednesday, plus a World Series game that quietly happened. There
Yeah,
was like a no hitter going somewhat quietly until it turned into a loss for the D backs. Will would be the guy, man. I'm sure he did. You have much on that game last night?
I did tail his Evaldi bet, which was fun, and
Okay.
I used my profit boost on Texas minus 1.5 for DraftKings. Just one of those things. It was like plus 160, and then you can boost it like 200 with the boost or whatever it was. So one of those EV. Like I didn't even watch the game as much as I probably should have, but ended up doing pretty well with it, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I tuned in and out of it. I was trying to watch the NBA games, but like you were saying, we're just gonna have some like crazy big slates in the NBA, especially when they're trying to like compete with the NFL. That's what I was talking about yesterday. So when they have to take their days on game on non NFL game days, especially Friday is gonna always be huge for them. Like just gonna be what it
Yeah.
is. I don't know. Like you were saying, still tread carefully, man, when there's all these games and when you get these weird, tricky slates like tonight, which we'll talk about.
Was
But
it Raptors are back to back, Pelicans are back to back, Jazz, Magic, and the Suns, right? No,
s-
Suns
no,
aren't. No,
no,
Suns
the
aren't.
only
Sun Spurs are the rematch from Tuesday. So
yeah,
still,
and
that's like five
most
teams on
teams,
back to backs. It's
yeah,
it's rough.
most teams, not the Magic, but still like 2 and 3 days, all this stuff. So
Yeah, no, yeah. I think I did the math wrong. I think it was 4 out of the 8 teams. So a lot of back to back. So
yeah,
just be a little careful.
yeah,
We can just jump right into that too. I was surprised to wake up to this number. First bet I put in, I went 1.2 units. Joel Embiid over 28.5 points. I mean, I feel it's interesting that last year, if you remember, without James Harden being in the lineup, I know Maxey is having a much bigger role this year. But do you realize if you had to guess, could you guess what Joel Embiid's usage rate this year is in the first few games?
I can, yeah, because I know it. It's
He's
37 and a half
isn't that
percent.
fucking crazy? That is like the only ones that compare to that number are like those random bench players that played like 2 minutes and their numbers are just super skewed.
Yeah,
37.5%. That is a crazy usage rate. And I think it's
yeah,
one of those things where last year when Harden was out, what was his points line most of the time? Like 33.5. He got up to 34.5 one game. Like
stupid.
I feel like it just getting lines under 30. I know it's early this season. Like he usually starts slow. He's not starting slow this year. I'm
Yeah,
just surprised that you're getting lines like that because, like I said, Tyrese Maxey bigger role in the team, but his lines reflect that. Like last year, he was getting those 22.5. Now they're 25.5. Joel Embiid's losing like 6 points on his lines without Harden, and his usage is just crazy high. So I was surprised. I was so torn to go a little bit heavier because 30 plus this morning was plus 110,
yeah.
but I ended up being it safe and just doing the 28.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to not just go right there in a matchup versus Toronto for him. They always just hemorrhage points to centers. You can just get, find them and torch them. Interestingly, like so I'm with you on that on Embiid. I'm with you on Maxi as well and even Scotty Barnes so my buddy and I put together a same game parlay for this today. That game that was Embiid 25 plus points, Maxi 20 plus, Barnes 15 plus, and 8 plus boards because he's averaging like 20 and 10. That's 300. If you even just take away the boards for Barnes, you just take the points for all three of those dudes. You still get that at nearly 2 to 1. So I think it's still a really good bet at like plus 180 for Embiid 25 plus, Maxi 20 plus, Barnes 15 plus points. But yeah, there's a couple of ways to play that game. That was most of my action for honestly so far is because that's all we really know what we've got to work with.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
even in that Utah like Orlando game, there's a couple of things in there, but it's a little bit shaky for me.
Yes, we got Ferret Snow in the chat, our favorite guy there. He was just asking about, um, are you worried more about Joel Embiid becoming double teamed tonight? And I kind of mentioned that in the write up I put in the GoldBoys Discord. I feel like they're gonna try to double him, but you have Jakob Pertl, and they don't really have the necessary double team. Achua's been in and out of the lineup, and they don't usually play two bigs in that lineup. They have a lot of length, but not a lot of meaningful length to try to double Joel Embiid. And if you ever watch Joel Embiid play basketball, he's so good in double teams where a lot of times if you double him too aggressively, he's going to be taking two shots every single time because he'll draw the contact because a lot of times in those double teams you have one guy that's a little bit too aggressive, and if you reach, he's at the line like almost every single
That
time.
used to
So
be the knock against him used to be his inability to play out of a double team, and it doesn't really matter to me against the Raptors. They just don't have the personnel to stop him. Like, Favorite Snell saying he's a horrendous passer. In the right situation, obviously, he's a decent passer.
hey,
But
seven
if
assists
you
a game
double
this year,
him,
right? Isn't
yeah, yeah,
he's actually he looks a lot better in his passing this year. Like I think I'm not going to call him, the one of the top passers in the league as
sure.
a big man, but he does look a little bit more. I want to say purposeful with his passes. I think the biggest knock I'll have on Embiid the last few years is that I feel like sometimes he just makes the wrong effort in his passes. Like sometimes it just seems like, okay, what were you thinking there? I think he's more meaningful in how he's trying to make some passes ever since that first game where he got roasted for it.
I dig it. Yeah. I'm actually looking at some Raptors real quick. They are on a back to back as well.
Yeah.
But I do think still the way that they score, like, transition. We know that it's got to be fast break points for them. It's got to be get it and go, and that's why Scotty Barnes is so good for them. But my two favorite bets, the same game parlay I mentioned at the top. I'm tailing my buddy with like a point 0.2 units on that. But the two bets that I do like are from the other side for Toronto with Pirtle over 18 and a half points, rebounds, and assists. And I like the exact same bet for OG and Anobi, to be honest with you. So both these
Future
guys are,
Sixer, OGM, and Anunoby.
yeah, they hope. Like Will and I were talking about that too yesterday. Like either of those guys are amazing on this team, but the best for Pirtle, like he's gone over this. He has to play against JoJo. He does so well against him. He averages 11 boards in his last year versus Joel in the 3 games they played against each other. In the last 6 that he's played Joel, sometimes as a Spur, sometimes as a Raptor. He also goes over this number 18 and a half, 5 out of the 6 games. He's averaging 27 points, rebounds, and assists in those last 6 when he's on the floor versus Joel Embiid. So like, I'm not worried about that at all. He's got to be out there for the 28 to 30 minutes. And then the same for OG. Like they don't guard small forwards well. The 76ers are super vulnerable from that spot.
Especially
Even if
now
they
with you're losing PJ Tucker.
That's what I was
And
thinking as well.
yeah.
So, D'Anthony Melton, probably not going to be on OG, would be my guess. Probably on the shooting guard to stay out there, but maybe he does. He's still not as athletic as OG in that sense, so it's a little bit of a mismatch. As good of a defender as Melton is against smaller guards, so like, yeah, I'm good with all this for OG and Jakob Poeltl because I do think that this game's likely to go over. Playing even at the slow pace that these teams play at, it's 214 and a half. Just went to 221. Went over half the time last year. I still think it's a good over.
Yeah, no, I like that. Not to spend too much time on this game too, but I'll just say this. I think it's weird to think this way, but yesterday I texted you about Trey Young assist. I think it's super strange that sometimes key numbers in NBA matter, where I swear Trey Young checked back in a game that was like 13, 14 point game, and he was sitting at that like 19-9, and he was just harping for trying to
Oh yeah, you
find
hit
that.
the assists, right?
Yeah, trying to find that layup to get that double double, which he did. Same thing with Joel Embiid here. If he's at 27 points and it's like a fourth quarter game, people care about like guys. It's like it sounds weird to think about, but people care about dropping 30 and not 29, or dropping 10 assists for double double, not ending at like a 28-9 game or whatever it is. So I do think the last 10 home games that Embiid played without Harden, he's gone 30 or more points. I think it's a
Yeah.
weird trend. I'm not usually a trend guy like that, but I do think he plays up at home and he
I think
plays.
just a different way to look at your point, and we can just see if we have any bets for the other games real quick. Is like he scores against this team in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter. He comes out. He establishes his dominance, and then in the fourth quarter he comes out.
I almost bet the first quarter line. I liked it, but it was eight
What's
and a
that?
half, and it
Eight
was
and a half.
juice. It was 8.5 juice to the over. But then again, like I said last year, he was getting 10.5 lines in the first quarter. So
Yeah,
it just feels like a spot where I'm okay if I lose. I just think it's a little too low at
yeah.
this point in the season. I think people forget that. I mean, he's a guy that averages like 32 points a night, and you're getting 28 lines. So
I like that.
I'll live on that rock.
If you're gonna take the over 8.5, I might as well just get it to 10. I was hoping you were gonna say it was 7.5, and the 10 plus in the first quarter was
Yeah.
like 200 or plus 220 or something. But either way, yeah, I'm good with all that. Did you have anything from the other 3 games?
I
Because
haven't bet anything, but I was hardcore looking at debating a Wemby under and like points, rebounds, assists, only because it's the same matchup. And I know they came back and won, but did you watch that first half? He looked
yeah,
awful. Like I was trying to root for him, but he didn't look good at all. Like he only went over his PRA line because of that putback in the last 8 seconds. If you give Kevin Durant and this team again like another crack at it, I do think I was looking at Wemby's under just in case, just in point that Kevin Durant kind of showed him up that first half the entire time. He ended the half, what I think, over 6.
Yeah,
Not saying he didn't play well in the second half. I'm just saying, like, I think
yeah.
the fact that he got higher lines for the rematch, it was attractive to maybe look for an under, but I haven't
You
played anything
nothing
yet.
there. What's his PRA at?
His PRA when I checked was 25 and a half or 26 and a half. Let me make sure I have. I'm trying to pull it back up because his points are at 17 and a half. They were
Yeah.
16 and a half last game.
He burned me on the boards last game. I thought he wasn't gonna have 7, and I think he had 9 or 8, but,
Yeah.
um, I'm yeah, Wemby's still an enigma to me because I don't know. I look for matchups on the other team, and there is never one. What's
Yeah.
funny is that "Oh snap, it's Nina" was like, "You gotta put Bol in." That might be the only dude who,
Bol
at
Bol is
least
crazy though. Like,
physically, is the
do you
only
know
dude who's close.
do you know the guy on do you know the guy on Twitter, like prop bet guy? He loves Bol Bol. It's so funny. If you ever get a
Yeah.
chance, I don't know why. He's a big Bol Bol stan. So he's the only guy that really matched up with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. The other thing
Nah.
I wanted to mention that game is I so want to take stock in Trey Jones over 60 and a half points, rebounds, assists. He's not starting, but have you
Yeah.
seen the numbers of his plus minus with the team? He's like plus 17 or something for a team
Mm,
that's minus 44. So it's crazy how efficient he
mm.
is on that team, but I don't know why he's not getting the minutes he should be getting. So I almost want to bet Trey Jones, hoping that they finally snap and figure out that he deserves to get a lot more minutes than he's seeing.
I mean, that's look at the Grizzlies without Tyus Jones when they don't have John Morant. They're they're the same person. And yeah, same with the other one, the Jones that's on the Spurs. Agree. I've whenever he's in, I'm like, oh, I just assumed he was a starter. It took until last game for me to look closer and be like, oh, he's not even a starter. He does get the 25 minutes plus, but like that's yeah. When you have those kind of numbers, you can do what you want with the plus minus. But when you're the only one with that level of
Oh yeah,
discrepancy on a
it's
team
like
that's
I said,
that
plus
bad.
minus is it's a weird stat, but I do think it's a good jumping off point for situations like this where it's like,
Yeah,
all right, our team's ass. How come this one guy always seems to,
yeah,
get positive results with
right.
it? He plays well with Wemby. That's what it is. He
Yeah.
plays really well in the Wemby lineups, but he doesn't start. So that
Sh
first quarter, Wemby just sits outside the 3 point line and just chucks like 6 contested threes. It's a weird look to start the game.
everything he does to start the game is pick and pop. It is.
It
I'm
doesn't
wondering
work.
as I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about how like Keldon Johnson. So the bet that I already did put in for this game is Kevin Durant 5 plus assists, Nurk 9 plus boards. The
Okay.
best, like both of those things I was trying to target, and I was trying to figure out, like, look, the thing is, if you want to take 4 assists for KD, I think that's the way safer play because if Booker does play, then now we're closer to what he averages when Booker is in there. When Booker doesn't play, like he's gotten 7 assists the last 2 games. He's the only point guard, if you will, on the team is the 7 footer. So like he's going to be the facilitator. The other thing I just started thinking about though, because I do like that bet at plus 145 on DraftKings, were the odds I took it at about an hour ago. And then should we just bet on KD to be super pissed and drop 40?
It could happen. I mean, he did not look
He just got
super
scratched
happy
in the
after that.
face and looked silly
Yeah.
in his own mind, right? Like,
Yeah. No, I can totally see that happening. And Kevin Durant is one of those people where I saw someone on Twitter make this point where it's just like, oh, it's crazy what happens when someone wants to do well with I forget who it was. I think it was Kawhi put 13 points up in the first quarter. And there is a little bit of truth to that though. Like sometimes if you're a star in this league, you can get what you want to get. Like if you want to go out there and just like decide the score or like you hear these old like Wilt Chamberlain quotes where it's like, oh, I decided I wanted to average a triple double, or like oh, I decided I wanted 10 assists one game. It's like you can kind of decide how you want to play, and Kevin Durant's one of those guys where if he decides he wants to shoot and score points, he is one of the most pure shooters you're ever going to see. He can find a way to do that, especially against the Spurs team. So I can totally see that.
who I mean, we say it every time about him too, but you look at the other teams, like who's a good matchup for Kevin Durant?
No, but I
And there's
mean,
certainly
Wemby tried to line up. That was a sick welcome to the league moment? Is that end of the half where Kevin Durant took the fadeaway over him? That was a
yeah,
fun time. That was
yeah.
a good battle.
We were talking about that on the show too. It was like, this is the one dude that can block the Kevin Durant fadeaway. This is the only dude, and
And
he
Kevin
didn't block
Durant,
it. That was
and to my point, when Kevin Durant, lined up for that end of the half play, and Wemby met him at the key. you can't tell me that Kevin Durant's eyes didn't light up and just think how awesome this is going to be
Yeah,
to try to like have this chess match. So it was
right.
cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, he had 5 turnovers last game. Favorite Snails talking about that too. If you want to take some KD turnovers, if he's the primary ball handler, let me look at that. KD 40 points right now. The best I found was 10-1 on DraftKings. Not sure if there's a better number there, but I'm gonna look at the turnovers for KD because that's such a great point. If it's at like 3.5, I freaking love that.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to my friend on Twitter. I'll give one more shout out to this guy Joe Delera. He works for Action Network, so we can't love him too much, but I do think that he's been hammering Wemby's turnover prop since like day one,
yeah, yeah,
where it was 1.5, and then last game it was 3.5
three and a
plus
half. Yeah,
120.
yeah.
It hit, and now it's 3.5 minus 155. So I think he's finally off that train. But that's kind of what I was saying to you before the season. Sometimes
Can
you
you give
can
me
find
KD's real quick?
props.
If you're on,
KD's,
yeah,
yep, on Picket Sports. KD's is 3.5 minus
yeah.
120.
If without Booker, I love that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. I
I'm with
kind
you
of
on the Wemby
feel.
stuff, by the way. Like, I hit that last game too. So
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where I almost disappointed myself because I told you about that, about having finding bad lines in NBA and just kind of hammering them till they change. I literally was talking about Joel Embiid's assists when I said that. Bet it the first day and then bet
yeah,
it the second game and then stop doing it. And it's hit every single game. So
still hitting. Yeah,
yeah, so like now it's 5.5. I think it's a little out of the range, but that 4.5 is like I feel like an idiot. I didn't just keep betting on it. So
yeah,
I gave out great advice and then just proceeded to be like, all right, well, let's move on and not follow any
yeah.
of that.
I
So
think we both thought it was a little bit more matchup based too, though.
yeah, and then
Like
has I
with
mean, if
Embiid.
you have a 40% usage rate, matchup don't give a shit about you. That's that's really what
Yeah,
it comes down to.
yeah. I mean, it does mean you're not passing as much, but like he's also just getting the ball every time. So
Yeah.
most possessions he's touching it. I think that's still a good bet too.
You know what
Yeah,
it is? I think the reason I didn't bet it is that first game I saw his potential assist numbers and they were crap. And I was like, oh
right.
shit, maybe I got a little lucky to hit this. And then it just kept
Mm,
happening. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not lucky to hit it. Maybe it's the fact that he's finding the most open passers possible because of the way that he gets guarded at the elbow. So
where do you get potential assists from? Because it's such a pain
um,
in the ass for me to find it the way
just
I do.
NBA.com has a passing stats like they're pretty
But you have to
detailed.
go you can't do it within a box score. You have to go to the stats page and then
And
go
then
to
you
that
can but you can
specific
just
stat.
filter it by game. Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah, it's just a pain in
Yeah.
the ass. I thought there was an easier way somewhere to
Yeah, I
find
try.
potential assists.
I like. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but like, I splice a lot of my data from NBA.com into like my sheets, which is like
Yeah,
a pain in the ass and well, but it makes it a little bit easier for me. But
yeah,
easier to do that if you just steal data. But
yeah, that's true.
that's a
It's
whole
called
other thing.
scraping. It's called scraping. Don't call it stealing.
Yeah, it's scraping.
Scraping.
Yeah, so that's all I have for NBA because I honestly, Pistons, Pelicans, that's two teams in a back-to-back situation with dealing with some injuries. I don't know if, on a small slate, I don't want to be the guy that bets that game because I feel like I
Yeah.
have to. So I have nothing on that game.
Agreed. Yeah,
Someone said
because
Herbert Jones, 15 plus points. I think if you're gonna bet that game, that's the way to do it. Is to find those, those bench players or those high minute. I don't want to
yeah.
say more irrelevant people, but the kind of people that will see a lot more minutes in a back to back kind of weird ass game.
CJ McCollum just poured in 29 last night. A lot of minutes. Same concept for Zion. BI questionable. Do you want to take that squad? I don't know, but yeah, like I wish a Jose Alvarado was available, but I think he's
Yeah.
still hurt. So yeah, I think when you start looking at Herbert Jones, he left a really bad taste in everyone's mouth who bet on him last night because he couldn't shoot for to save his life and to save any bets. That's for sure. It ended with 5 points. I know a couple people that had him on like over 12 and stuff like that. I stayed away from it, but it's the same concept. Like he would be the type of player that you would take tonight in a situation where Zion and CJ might not have it quite as much.
Yeah.
So
And who knows what Zion's legs look like in a back to back. So
can't get injured, man. Like God,
yeah.
God forbid. But yeah, I think that's pretty much yeah. What just to touch on it, the freaking Trailblazers came back against the Pistons, who I thought were going to be a more steady team, and won because Shaden Sharp went off, which was wild. That was just another NBA oddity type of game you stay away from. Similar situation to this Pistons game tonight. So
Yeah, and the piss tone step off. I'm gonna just say this: DeAndre Ayton is back. His props are so playable now with his rebounding. I just want to put that
why is
out
that
there
piss tone off?
because we had a whole show on Monday talking about it for like 40 minutes because Ryan laddered his PR and then I took it for a unit and a half. and then he had 23 boards. So I think he's so back there.
He's got so many rebounds.
He got so many
Do
rebounds,
you have a
and
rebuttal, Tone?
he was in the chat. He just said a hit on that play, and no shot at Hayden right now. Yeah, no, it was crazy. He had every single rebound I think at one point. He had
Yeah.
23
He's
career
the only one
high.
out there. There's no one else that
Yeah.
even steps into the paint for that team when he's on the floor. Jeremy
Also,
Grant
I want
is
I will
allergic
say
to it.
this: he got so much hate with Phoenix, but it's so funny that it's crazy how rebounding is a hustle stat, and if you just are in a place you actually want to
Try.
be, and you're not in a prison anymore, it's crazy what you can do with that kind of stuff.
I agree. He's the only one down there, and no one's yelling at him. There's probably something to that, but he also just hurt himself with the dominating comment. 'Cause
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
yeah, well,
that's whatever. Yeah, he's been
yeah,
saying that since Arizona, though. What a weird dude. But
yeah. What a weird cat.
do you wanna
Anyway,
move on to the fun part of Thursday Night Football with these two juggernauts of teams with the Titans and the Steelers?
is it gonna be fun?
It's gonna be the best game ever. Do you know why? Because
Because
Derrick
we'll.
Henry has 11.5 receiving yard line.
Oh my god, that's where we're starting with this. Oh, what are you gonna do,
So
man?
I
That's what
have
we do on
no
Thursdays.
bets in this game, but he had 4 targets last week, like, with Levy in there. I do think with Will Levis, like, he's gonna be involved, right? Like, I get he had these crazy downfield throws to Hopkins, but at the end of the day, you can't take away those plays, but he had some plays where he looked really sharp and some plays where he just looked like, does this guy know how to play football? So I do think Derrick Henry's gonna get those 2 or 3 targets, and I was looking at the numbers. The Steelers are actually pretty stout against receiving running backs. I think they're only allowing like 28 yards a game. But the thing with I notice is they allow the third most yards per catch, which is where I care about because a guy like Henry is not like a Kamara that's going to be like, oh, we know he's getting the ball, or like, oh, he's going to get like 7 targets. I just need that 1 or 2 catches to break. I don't really care about his volume as much because we know he's not going to get more than 3 or 4 targets. But I just need that one that's going to break. So if they're struggling in the yards per catch category, I do think 11.5 is a really small
What are his
number.
targets like right now?
Last week he had 4, he had 2, 3, 1, 0, which was the whole injury thing,
Right.
and then 4, 3. So outside of those 2 games, you're seeing 2 or 3 targets, which is more than enough for me in
Mhm.
terms of this game because that one he got 0 too was that Browns game where they were down like a million early. So the key with him is as long as they're not up or down a lot, he gets so much snaps. It's one of those things
Yeah.
where that Browns game, the only 2 games he didn't hit this line was the Browns game where he didn't have a catch when they were down a million and he saw like 0 snaps. And then the next game was the Bengals game where they were up a million and they beat the Bengals, was it 27-3? So that
Yes.
was another situation where he only had 1 target for 11 yards, but he ran the ball for 122 yards because they were up a lot. So I've been attacking Derrick Henry in these spots that should be close because as long as it's a neutral game script, those first and second down plays are always going to be in play for him to catch a pass because he's always going to be on that field because he's all they really have on that offense for the most part.
Well, the only thing that I would say just to throw caution is like they do seem to use Tajay Spears in the situations where they can't run the ball quite as well. The Steelers
Yeah.
do have a good overall defense. I mean, both these defenses are basically top 10 and then on defense and bottom 10 on offense. So, like, I do think there's something to the idea that
But the
both are going to
Steelers'
have
run
trouble running.
defense has actually been pretty shit. Like
Is it?
they haven't been strong as much
I'm
in the
looking it up
run
real
defense.
quick. You're
Yeah.
right. They're better. Their pass DVOA is ninth. Their rush DVOA is 14th. Their defensive DVOA is there, so
Yeah.
they are definitely better
The only
against the
thing I'm
pass.
concerned about too with in a weird way is looking at Spears's like overall like usage of the passing game. I'm gonna read them off to you as I had it written down.
Yeah,
Last week, 4 targets, 9 yards, 1 target, 48 yards, 5 targets, 35 yards, 4 targets, 18, 4 targets, 3 yards, 2 targets, 6 yards, 4 targets, 1 yard. So it's one of those things where the volume's there, but not really the yardage as much. Outside of that
yeah.
148-yard catch he had in that the end of the game on was it
Hey,
the
real quick, Brian. I think we're
game?
getting some. Oh, we're getting echo on both of us now.
Yeah, we're getting echo on both of us.
Oh,
The
good on
the
screen. All right,
stream
you
is
guys
it's
don't
good on the
care.
stream.
We'll
Yeah.
just hear our voices twice.
But yeah, that's
I'm with all that.
weirdly enough part of the reason because I don't want to spend too much time talking about just like these
No, I'm with
receiving
all that.
prompts, but I weirdly like the fact that the low volume guy has a better chance of break one than the guy that when he's in there defense can kind of key in on him being a receiving back. Same with like Taysom Hill comes in the game. No one's thinking, oh shit, Taysom Hill is coming in the game. I hope it's not, a downfield actual, traditional pass play. If someone like Spears comes in, your immediately thought is, all right, we've got to make sure we limit that. So we'll see what happens to go on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with all that. I think the fact that he's at the over 1.5 receptions for him is a minus 145. So if you think he's going to get two, and they're usually throw at least one screen pass to him with
Yeah.
blockers in front of him, so he should be good for at
I
least
just
like
think the
6
reason I think I
receptions.
like this prop so much is that because it's Derrick Henry, you really can't move it off like 11 and a half. It's never been
Yeah,
more than that because it's Derrick Henry. Like you can't
yeah,
make it like 14. It probably should be like 14 and a half with the way his lines are this year, but
yeah,
like you can't really do that. Like it's such a weird prop where you can't move it up 4 yards in such a low volume
yeah.
situation.
Yeah. So I only watched a little bit of Will Levis highlights from last week, like in like a little condensed thing. Overall, like, does he if he can't get the deep ball, does he have the ability to do anything against a really good pass defense?
If you can check it down to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's about it. Because I'm looking at ways to fade, but everything's pretty low. Like the 200 yards is low. The DeAndre Hopkins 53 yards still feels low to take
Yeah.
an under when he's gonna probably
Hopkins, you're
get
gonna
like
have to hope for that deep ball
what's he gonna
to
get, like
break.
13 targets? Like
Yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of where my thinking is I think it's a Hopkins downfield game, or it's that
yeah,
holy shit, TJ Watt is so fast. Someone catches this pass. Where's that big guy that runs like a freight train? I'm just gonna shovel it to him. That's kind of how I read this game. Is it's gonna be a lot more
yeah.
that intermediate short screen game, or they're gonna try to take some quick deep shots down the field. I don't know if there's gonna be a whole lot of intermediate.
The TJ Watt under there's no over sacks available for TJ Watt,
They're
just
scared.
under. You can only take an under 0.75 if you think he's gonna get less than 1 sack in this game.
That's crazy.
So insane.
Oh well,
Um,
FanDuel has TJ Watt to record a sack minus 205.
mm,
That is a crazy amount of jukes for
mm,
a and it sucks. It probably wins, but how are you
yeah,
going to justify laying minus 200 on a sack?
not can't do it.
That is
Can't do it.
crazy.
Can't win with
That
him.
is that is awful.
Yeah, I don't have much for what I expect to be an ugly game. I wish Will was here to potentially offer the conspiracy theory that the offenses are gonna get, juiced up by referees and whatever else. But, like, this just feels like one of those Thursday night games that we cannot escape
Yeah,
a 17 to 14
and
final or
like I
something
said,
like
not to
that.
harp on it too much, but that's exactly why I started betting these low volume props, like quarterback rushing or uh, running back receiving on these games because these games have just been so ugly that I feel like it's those kind of props that have the most value because the one time I deviated from it was Stephon Diggs 80 yards or whatever, and he had 12 targets for like 6 yards. So I think it's one of
Yeah.
those things where it's hard to find value in those more inflated lines because you don't know what's going to happen on Thursday Night Football. Everyone's tired. Uh, Give me the shitty props. Give me the ones that make you go, I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
those are the
know.
ones I want.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's gonna have to be that because all the like both these teams, the only things that they do kind of well, like or that they so for instance, Tennessee's defense, you can throw on it. Pittsburgh can't throw. They're either gonna have bruised ribs, Pickett, or Mitch Trubisky and whatever the hell he's bringing to the table. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough watch. I don't know that I want to have too much stock invested in this game. I think there's plenty of awesome games to bet on after this one
Yeah, see,
finally
like, that's what I
happens.
mean, and that's why I think it's a day to watch NBA. I watch a Sixers game, and I'll just check the box score here and there, and just see if that ticker goes to 12 yards, and hope for the best. So,
Yeah.
what I talked about yesterday, honestly, my favorite bet in this game was going to be a Kenny Pickett, like Deontay Johnson type of same game parlay, like 200 yards, 50 yards for like plus money. I just can't buy into the fact that I got burned last week by Pickett getting hurt. I don't want to go back and betting on a guy that not saying he's gonna get re-hurt, but like, is he gonna be effective? Playing with a rib injury is so tough, especially like you get one blow on like on a passing play where someone just gets you right in the midsection. I mean, I've broken a rib before. It's not fun. Like they get hit. It's not fun to move. It's a 4 day rest. I don't know how he's supposedly going to be
Part
coming
of it.
out there and just being crazy effective, but at the same time,
Get
I
shot
almost
up.
want to take. At the same time, they don't have the running game. The like, against a team that can stop the run so much. I don't know if they're going to be able to just run the ball a bunch because Najee Harris is a traffic cone. you give him the
Yeah.
ball, and it's like, oh well, we only lost 2 yards with a solid play for Najee Harris. Like,
Well,
it's such a tough thing to cap because I don't know how the Steelers offense is going to try to move the football.
I would be willing to guess some form of Jalen Warren, Najee Harris receptions.
Yeah, I was thinking
They're juiced all the
Warren
way down.
Warren's receiving yards is 19 and a half.
Yeah.
I gave that a real long look.
I took it at 18.5 last week. He got 19. It closed at 19.5, and everybody was
Yeah.
pissed. And I was like, good Lord, thank you for the 18.5. But like this week, I think it's the same concept. It's going to be right around there for him. It's going to be right around 3 receptions and 19 yards every week for
Yeah.
Jalen Warren.
And for good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
for good reason. I
I
just think
wonder if
that
Najee gets a little bit of a bump because even when he's out there, it's not even just to run anymore. It's just to be a change of back besides Warren. And he has like it's 9.5 receiving yards for Najee.
yeah, honestly, you sold me. I'm gonna parlay all four running backs over in receiving yards and just
Get it.
I'm gonna
Get it.
what is the odds on that? Hold on, let me see. I
Get
think
it.
Spears is 14 and a half.
Oh yeah.
Let me see. So let
Give
me
me all
see.
that's he's getting that in one reception.
Yeah. Could you
No
imagine
question.
how funny I would call it? Like I have to find like a funny name for it, but I'll parlay them all together and just see what happens. Oh, FanDuel doesn't even list Spears. They fucking know. The three without Spears is plus 550 though.
All right, let me get in on this. I'll try it on DraftKings real quick. So we're doing rush yards
I mean,
for
I'll throw like $10 on like all
per
four
receiver.
running backs to hit their overs and have like the grossest
Yards,
game
right? Not
possible.
receptions.
Fuck it, both. I don't care. Like,
Jesus, you're a madman. All right, Derrick Henry's in there. He's minus 115 for over 11.5. I think that's still good.
yeah,
Over 19 have is minus 120 on Jalen. I hate that for Jalen Warren, but whatever. Najee is 9.5. I love I'm hitting that for sure. We're at
yeah.
plus
Najee
500
Harris
with the
is
three.
also,
You can't get plus 600 with a 3 leg parlay that are all around even money. Like,
and it's like the weirdest parlay of all
kiss
time.
my
Like,
ass, dude.
yeah, that's a
Um,
rough one. Where's
that's why they're giving it to you, and FanDuel's like, we're not even gonna bother sticking it to you like that. And then Tajay Spear receiving yards, I can get 14.5. Can add that together for 11-1. That's the receiving yards.
Yeah, I just think it's a little interesting that like how that works because okay, so if I just took all of them on 11 to 1, that's so interesting because you would think it would have more negative correlation with the fact that you're doing both. You're doing both of them, like both running backs to go over. You'd think that would naturally give you a boost, but 11 to 1, there's a 20%, 25% boost on DraftKings. You use that. You can buy a new car if you want. I mean, it's gonna hit. You're gonna have a car payment for 2 months. All the running backs are just gonna get so much receiving. If you know, I'm gonna play this. If it wins, it's gonna be so funny because if this wins, it means everybody else in the world is pissed off at the game. Like no
Yeah,
one's having fun, and then I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah, check it down again.
yeah, yeah. Keep checking it down. I'm here for that, dude. I'm here for being the only one that's happy that there's checkdowns. Tajay Spears getting around 4 targets a game, like you briefly mentioned earlier. Henry in the last 3 weeks back up to like three targets as well. And then, yeah, we know about Warren. He's getting anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on the matchup. And if it's a rush defense, then I played it with Warren last week because they played the Jags, and the Jags have an incredible run
If you add
defense.
the receptions as well with
To
the
all of
yards,
this,
it's up to 15 to 1 if you believe like if you add the 1.5s for the receptions and the 2.5 for Warren.
what does it
I don't
get
know
you
if it's
to?
15 to
Oh,
1 instead of 11 to
fuck
1.
out of
I
here.
guess because of that, I can understand that a little bit because you're basically
It's
saying,
all correlated.
yeah, I'll just do it with what's it with just Warren 3 plus? Is it like 12 to 1? Yeah, 12 to 1. I'm doing that. That's what I do it.
Okay. All right. All right.
$10
I'm with
to
it.
win 120.
Pickett's not going to be able to throw the ball past 10 yards with bad ribs.
Look at that.
So,
10
George,
bucks. It's you can't really see it. Never
I
mind.
can
But
now.
5 leg parlay.
We need to get a yak prop up. When are we going to start having yards after catch
I
prop?
know I talked about this with Ryan Props on Monday because I bet on Pacheco uh over in the Denver game and he averaged like 5.2 yards a carry, but he only had 7 carries or whatever or 8 carries because the game was so out of hand so early. How fun would it be if you could bet on like yards per carry? Because like in that game, I was like, he's gonna average over 5 yards a carry, and I wasn't wrong. He just was down 40 points to the fucking
Yeah.
Broncos. So that'd be such a
All that
there's
stuff. We're getting wild, but all that stuff would be fun as shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said if that wins, if what
Do you
wins,
wanna
yeah.
do you
So
wanna
we
did you
parlayed
hit
all
that? What'd you hit that
four.
for? What'd you
What was
hit the
that?
prop? Did you put $10 on it?
Yeah, I put $10 on it to win a
Alright,
unit.
I'll ride with you.
I'm such a person where I don't spend much on parlays because the last thing I want to do is to go say like last night I went 3-1 or 3-0. Imagine I went 3-0, but like I only win like a unit and a half because I had so many other big parlays in. It's like I'd
Sure.
rather just win the $300 and then like lose $10 on something fun
Right. Oh,
than
yeah.
to take away from long term game by just putting too much on
Yeah,
bullshit.
you play lottos. No
Yeah.
question you play lotto.
Yeah, so the parlay for everyone that was in the chat looking for it, we just straight up parlayed Warren, Henry, what was it Najee
Spears.
Harris, and Tajay Spears, all of them to go over their receiving yards for fun.
I'm gonna
Just
tell you right now,
betting on this to be
that
the
one's
worst
fun. That
game.
one's fun, but I absolutely love Najee over 9.5 receiving yards, and, well, I just really love that one the most, but I would also take the Spears over 14.5.
I would honestly, I would take any of
And you're a
them
fan of
as a
Henry.
straight. Yeah, I would take any of them as a straight. I think they're all good spots. Knowing me, this parlay is gonna go 3-1, and it's gonna miss on Henry. The only one I take as a straight.
The only one you hit is the
That's
straight.
that's me knowing my luck.
It's a kick in the nuts,
Yeah,
but
but that's all I have for this game. I
alright,
don't know if
yeah.
you have anything to add.
Nah, man, it's a weird night. We got a much more fun Friday where we can talk about Sunday and all the big NBA slate.
Awesome. I
Cool.
think we covered a lot of good stuff in that little 40-minute time frame with a shorter, shittier NFL and NBA slate. But as always, we appreciate that people that tune in every day at noon. We're on the stream, so we appreciate Picket Sports and Super Picks, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.